Whoops. So these are the things we're going to quickly go through. We're going to look at how to get the best energy deal with your retailer, which may or may not be something that you've looked at before, how to reduce your energy use within your small business, upgrading and replacing appliances and using rebates and grants to do that, and also for getting off options for getting off gas if that's something that you're looking at as well. So I'll really quickly talk about energy contracts. It can be a bit of an admin suck of energy sometimes, pardon the pun, but generally there's two different types of contracts you're going to be on. One is the standard retail offer, and if you've been doing pretty much the same thing for a long time, it's probably what you're going to be on, and they've got a flat price that you'll be paying for your kilowatt hours for your electricity. And also then we've got market retail contracts, and they are quite different in that the prices can change any time, but they're generally less expensive than your standard offer. If you use a lot of power, you might have a power purchase agreement, which is a whole other thing that I won't talk about today. And also really briefly talk about electricity tariffs. Now, if you have a smart meter, which you probably do, then you might have a single rate or a time of use. For single rates, it's really good if you're mainly operating in the evenings, Monday to Friday, or if you use your appliances more from Monday to Friday. And time of use can be really effective depending on when you're operating. But it's a little bit more complicated as well. Peak, off-peak, shoulder, it's a bit of a minefield. And you absolutely have to have a smart meter to have a time of use. Then you have controlled loads, which it can have in households, but also for small businesses as well. And that's great if you've got a hot water system or underfloor heating, and you can switch it over to off-peak, which is what the controlled load is for. I also wanted to mention the $325 for the energy bill relief for small businesses. That's been happening in the background. You must be on a separately metered business tariff to attract this. And if you and using under 40,000 megawatt hours, which most small businesses would be doing, that is automatically given to you, that relief fund, through your energy retailer, and it's been happening since July last year, so that should be happening automatically. You don't need to do anything about that. But in terms of understanding your bill, there's really one thing that I want to draw your attention to, and that is your NMI. Because as we get to the next slide, you're going to see it's a really good thing to have when you are looking at comparing rates with your electricity bills. So I'm going to go to the next one. Victorian Energy Compare is the best website to compare what your options are for your energy bills. It's independent, so you haven't got any particular energy retailers giving them kickbacks for recommending them. It's purely on usage, and it's comparing all of the different players for retailers. If you do this, and I highly recommend that you do it at least once a year, get your NMI. I'm going to go to the next page. Once you go into the website, and I can give you, I should have said at the beginning, I'll give you a copy of these slides at the end, so you don't need to take any notes. I can get you a copy of this with all the link. It will come up with what is your NMI. If you can grab your bill and put that NMI number in, it will then draw on all the data. So all your energy, all your electricity use over the last year, it will use that to give you the best plan. So it's not just based on averages, like when you use your energy and what time of the day is the highest use or anything like that. It's using real-time data from the last 12 months and giving you the best energy retail deal from there. This is also the case for your home as well. It's the same thing for small business. I'll also briefly talk about green power. This is where you're paying an extra on top of your kilowatt hour price to purchase extra renewable energy certificates. And a really great way to compare green power as well, and basically you can have from 5% to 100% if you wanted to, is whatever.com.au. It enables you to compare all the different plans, and it's independent as well for green power. And if you wanted to go a step further and look at your energy retailer and see what their sustainability credentials are, then you can look at Greenpeace have an electricity guide that rates all the electricity retailers for how good they are in that space. It's very, very good. If you do look at changing, you find a better deal and you look at changing, you've got 10 days once you've changed. Do know that legally you've got 10 days to change your mind, so that cooling off period. Do check to see if you have any kind of fee for getting out of your current plan. And just consider whether you're on a plan where the prices can change or not, and whether you're willing to go with that risk. And also check on the payment options, because that can obviously make a difference with cash flow as well. So now we've got you the best deal. That's good. Hopefully that's reduced your costs somewhat. Then we look at how to reduce your energy use within your business. So what uses the most energy? How do you make changes, and how much can you save? So I know it's a great quote. It's really obvious, but I love it. The cheapest energy is the energy that you didn't use in the first place. As a general rule, businesses can save up to about 15% on their energy costs for just switching off appliances when they're not in use. Then we come to things like timers, sensors, remote switches can also help with that. And as we spoke before, sometimes you might be on a timed electricity contract. If you've got off-peak power, if you can change the timing of some of your appliances to off-peak times, that'll obviously reduce your costs. And talking to your team about ways to improve things and reduce your costs, and getting them on board is obviously a really great thing to do as well, because they might come up with some things you hadn't thought of. So the things that use the most energy, whether it's at home or in any business, is any appliance that you're using for heating or cooling or constantly. So like a fan or a pump, something like that. So hot water systems, heaters, freezers, fridges, they're generally going to be the things that you are using the most energy. And the good news is that there's some really amazing energy efficient appliances coming out now that you might be able to get access to through the rebates that will reduce your bills. As an example, hot water, for example, my hot water system at home is resistive electric hot water. It uses about 3.6 kilowatt hours, kilowatts when it's heating that water. But if we were to replace that with a heat pump hot water, it would be about less than 1 kilowatt hour. Less than 1 kilowatt drawing on that energy. So a massive difference, which I'll talk about a bit more. So just to show you how that relates to costs, if we were to take a heat pump heater, like a split system aircon, that uses about 0.9 of a kilowatt per hour that it's on. And the annual cost would be about $421 if we're using it 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, just as an example. If you're using an inefficient electric heater, that could be drawing 2.1 kilowatts when it's on. So it's more than double over a year. Same with freezers. Freezers that have a glass front use up to 7 or 8 times more electricity than one that doesn't have one. And also, of course, it reduces emissions. Draft proofing and insulation, usually not on kind of the radar, but it can make a really big difference for heating and cooling. Anything, gaps around your windows, and insulation with your floors, your walls. But yeah, leaks of air through walls, vents around doors and windows, cracks in your skirting boards. Obviously, it depends on what kind of small business you have. Some of this may not be relevant. It can make a difference, a huge difference to your energy costs if you can plug up those holes and vents. I will say here that this is something new that Moyne have done recently, and that is we've got a do-it-yourself energy audit kit. If you really did want to see where maybe you have some leaks where you can plug up some holes or improve the insulation, then you can borrow this kit through the library for free. It has an infrared camera, so you can go around, for example, seals around your fridge or around your windows on a hot day like we've just had over the weekend. You'd really be able to see how much heat is coming in through particular doors or windows. It also has a PowerMate, which is where you can plug in appliances to see how much power they are using. So if you wanted to plug it into a fridge or a freezer for 24 hours and then put in the amount of that you're paying for electricity, it will tell you the weekly, monthly, annual cost for running that appliance. A really great thing to have. It also has some other things like thermometer, and I'll talk about how you can use that in a little bit. So that's free to borrow through the Moyne Corangamite Library. Just some other quick tips is that if you do have a split system aircon or heat pump, if you can clean the filters regularly, that really makes a difference. If it's ever not working properly, it's probably because the filter is dirty, at least once or twice a year. Your fridges, as I mentioned before, if you can use that thermometer, you can pop it in your fridge or freezer and see what temperature it is, because if it's too cold, then you're using too, it can make a difference. If you can reduce it a little bit, it will reduce the amount of electricity that you're using and obviously your costs as well. If you have heaters that are temperature controlled, heating to 20 degrees, for example, instead of 24, or cooling to 24 instead of to 20 makes a really big difference on how much that appliance will be using. Every degree that you add adds 5 to 10% to the energy that it's using. Obviously, if you've got customers and you're in a shop that you can't probably go down to 24 degrees, you might want to have it cooler for people, but as a rule, that's how that works. Don't leave your electrical appliances on standby if you don't need to, and lighting. I know it's very obvious, but keep letting the natural light in will reduce the amount of electricity you use from your lighting as well. Upgrading or replacing appliances. This is where the rebates come in. So it's really worth researching the kind of appliance that you might need to upgrade or replace, and look at using the rebates to do that, which I'll talk about in a minute, and plan for replacement. Don't wait until something breaks down, because then you'll have to make a quick decision, which may not be, the model or the make that you want to get that's really efficient may not be available, and then you're stuck with another appliance for 10 or 15 years. So efficient appliances. New electrical appliances, the heat pump based technology is up to 600% efficient, compared to much, much lower for something like an electric heater or gas heater. Choose an appliance with a high energy rating, and this is a really great website where you can see how much electricity it's going to cost you per year and compare 5, 10, however many appliances against one another to see what the energy use is. And over 10 years, an 8-star, as an example, an 8-star dishwasher can cost you about $89 to run, compared to a 3-star dishwasher, which is about $531. So a really big difference. As a general rule, the highly efficient electric appliances use 50 to 80% less energy than the worst performing models. So it's worth sussing out. Heat pump technology, I'll just touch on that. I know I've already talked about a little bit. So 3 main areas. You've got your split system or your aircon units, heat pump hot water systems, and heat pump clothes dryers as well. They are between 300 to 600% efficient. So they're putting out 3 to 6 times more energy in the form of heat or cooling than they are using in electricity. They are unbelievably efficient. Not like the old air conditioner units that we used to have. So the main rebate I want to talk about is the Victorian Energy Upgrades, and it covers almost everything. So although it's not the $25,000 up front, it is a really good rebate to get hold of if you are looking at upgrading any of your appliances. So it includes heating and cooling, so the split systems we just talked about, hot water systems, lighting, even things like televisions, fridges, freezers, cool rooms, clothes dryers, shower heads, all that. And basically it works by providing a reduction in the cost, and you need to basically find an authorised provider who will actually implement or install and provide that product, and it's automatically comes off the top, so you don't have to fill out extra paperwork. That is what the installer or the contractor would do. I have done a little bit of research to find out who are those people in this particular area, because in major cities you've got 20 or 30 different suppliers who can provide that, but in regional areas not so much. But I can provide more information about that after today if you are looking at doing any of these things. So just some indicative rebates to replace electric hot water system. I do believe it's actually much higher than this from research I've done just recently. I think it's up around the 2,000 mark for replacing a hot water service with a heat pump. As another example, replacing ducted gas heating, which is more for residents, but just to give you an idea, up to 3,400. A new cool room, $2,000 off, and lighting is often free depending on how many you have. Solar for business, that ended last year in June. There was a rebate for solar businesses. There is still one for residents, but it's still worth looking at depending on how much energy you use. It can be a really, really short payback period for solar, depending on, because the cost has come down and down over time. It's worth at least getting a couple of quotes, because if you can give your potential solar installer your NMI, they can download that data that we spoke about before, and they will be able to give you a really good idea about how much that solar system will reduce your bills by. So you'll have that knowledge up front before you make any decisions. And it can be a really good return on investment. It might only be 4 or 5 years, and then after that you are, seeing some really big savings. Getting off gas. Now, I know, especially in the Moyne area, gas hasn't been around for that long. We were very excited about having natural gas around 8 years ago when it came in, but it's a different scenario now. The Victorian government want everyone to get off gas as much as possible, which I'll talk about why in a minute. But obviously it's not for everyone. I'm just mentioning this if it is something that you're looking at doing. Why the Victorian government wants us to get off gas? They've made it for new residents, new builds, new houses built in Victoria, you cannot connect to natural gas. They are estimating that for households that will save about $1,000 a year for residents. So gas is a polluting fossil fuel, and we now have options for 100% renewable energy and rooftop solar. And cooking with gas has been linked more and more to increases in asthma and other health issues. And switching from gas to efficient electric appliances can save significant dollars, as we've already talked about. The three main areas you might be looking at for gas would be a heat pump split system. Now, gas heaters are about up to 80% efficient, but you're comparing that to 300 to 600% efficient for electric. Gas hot water, we've already talked about how great the heat pump hot water systems are and how efficient they are. Much, much better, much more efficient than gas. And also gas cooking. Induction cooktops are very, very, I think, about 90% efficient, and gas cooking is about 34% efficient. And of course, we've got electric ovens. The three ways you can save in terms of save money if getting off gas would be on your running costs, which we've just covered, saving on your daily service charge. So you'd be paying a daily service charge, you can say, around $1.10 or $1.20 a day just to have that gas service. Once you disconnect altogether, you're not paying that, so it's about $350 saving a year. And then you've only got one bill to negotiate and pay, so that can save you time as well. As I said, not for everyone, but wanted to provide this information. So I know I've gone through this very quickly. We've talked about getting a better deal on your energy contract, checking your premises to see if you can make changes like insulation or draft proofing, checking your practices and your habits to see if you can use less energy, by turning off things or using it in an off-peak time. Check your appliances, making a plan for replacing them, seeing what else is out there and how much you might be able to save by using the rebates. And obviously, once you've done all that, you can make a plan and take action. Now, if you're not already on the Moyne Council's Economic Development mailing list, you can definitely join if you'd like to, although it did sound like most people were on it. And we also have a whole lot of information on energy efficiency on Moyne Shire's website. So if you haven't had a look there, that might be helpful.